When was the last time you worked on a problem for a full hour without checking your phone? How many times did you look at your phone in the last hour alone? And are you producing meaningful work and a meaningful life, or mostly recovering from just distractions in your life?
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision.
Voices of Victory.
Leadership.
Voices of Victory.
Workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario D. Leone.
Hello, and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast show. I am your host, Mario D. Leone. We are going to talk about the power of attention and leadership. What we're going to cover today in this episode is something that no one wants to talk about, and it's shaping leadership behind closed doors. It's shaping leadership right under your nose. We're going to talk about how it impacts productivity, your relationships, mental clarity, and nobody wants to talk directly about it. And we're talking about attention span. More specifically, what happens when attention gets fragmented? Now, I could go off on 2 hours of the default mode network of the brain, but I'm not going to, because most people can't even wade through that. They have difficulty as it is. So here's what I'm going to unpack. We're going to unpack why the brain feels the need to constantly be busy, how phones and notifications have totally hijacked our mind and is making us jump from one thing to another, why people say, I can't meditate, and then what is going on inside their nervous system if they actually try, and how the constant stimulation trains our brain to resist stillness and resist quiet, and what distraction does to leadership and decision making, and why deep thinking is becoming a rare event, how attention creates leverage in work and life, how metacognitive questions can actually restore your clarity, and how simple ways that you can go down those roads to rebuild your ability to focus. So guess what? This is not about becoming a monk or going into monk mode. This is all about learning. So get ready and think again. There's 3 questions to really start. I want to start with 3 questions. When was the last time you worked on one thing for a full hour without touching your phone? And how many times did you check your phone in the last hour itself? And at the end of your day, do you feel like you finished something meaningful, or do you feel burnt out and just simply want to escape reality? So you numb yourself out with even more distractions. Or does it feel like you are running around all day without actually arriving anywhere or without getting anything done? Like you feel busy, you look busy, but you feel like you really haven't accomplished much. Most people know these answers in an honest way. They really do. The modern workday has really changed. It's changed a great deal in the past 15, 20 years. The laptop's open, your phone is right next to it, email inbox is full, and the messages are just waiting. And this is where it gets interesting. You start working on something important, 3 minutes later, your phone lights up. Now, you could look at your attention span as being a straight line. If you take a pen or a pencil, you draw a straight line on a sheet of paper, that is sustained attention. It's a constant, sustained attention. When you do a dashed line, a line full of dashes across the page, that is a fragmented attention span. The breaks in the line indicate every time the attention span has been derailed. So you got to remember, when your phone lights up, if you glance at it, you answer a message, and then all of a sudden you quickly check something else, maybe a quick scroll, and then you come back to the task, something has changed. Your mind has to rebuild that entire train of thought that you just had a few minutes ago. So right when your brain starts turning the gears again, another notification appears. And this repeats all day long. It's like, okay, the gears of your brain are turning, something interrupts it, you go to that, you come back, and then your brain has to go through the motions again. This repeats all day. And by the afternoon, your brain feels like a desk covered with just scattered paper everywhere. Everything is open and nothing is finished. It's like having 20 browser tabs on your computer open and not knowing which one is which. So now the brain wants to feel busy. This is something interesting about the human brain. It likes movement, not physical movement. It likes mental movement. And your brain wants something new to chew on all the time, something to solve, something to react to. And that's another thing. People will follow certain posts and they'll fall into the trap of rage bait. If you've heard of that before, where people put out a video to make you raged, full of rage, that is something to react to. And there's people that actually look for that subconsciously. They're completely unaware. They're on autopilot. They're in a habit. They're not really aware of what they're doing. So they fall into it. But imagine what happens to your brain when it's trained on constant stimulation, right? That constant stimulation is notification, messages, scrolling, news, more news, and then short videos that are only 1 minute long. It becomes like a dog chasing a tennis ball. Now, take a movie like Jurassic Park, the original, break it up, take that whole movie and break it up into 1 minute clips. The only difference is we're going to change the movie and we're going to make every 1 minute full of stimulus. Or using the Zeigarnik effect, which is the effect of having an open loop question, having an open question that leads you to another question. So the Zeigarnik effect is very relative to having a question, and it's an open-ended question, and it leads you to want to know more. And that's where we're going. That's where movies are going. Imagine just Jurassic Park in 1 minute increments. You watch each minute at a time. The only difference is that each minute contains some kind of stimulus to give you a dopamine hit. It leaves you with an open loop that you have to watch the next clip. That is where things are going. People think that that's a good thing. There's a group of people out there say, "Oh, that's good. I can use that. That's my social media weapon." But it's actually training us for constant stimulation. That's the downside. So imagine like the dog and the tennis ball. You throw a ball, the dog runs. You throw another ball, the dog runs again. And eventually, guess what? The dog starts expecting another ball every few seconds. And this is what modern attention looks like. Now, I've also come to understand that when it comes to attention, if we're not getting things fast enough, we could have frustration and anger set in very quickly. And this trains our brain to crave for the next thing, that we have to react to something. So the cell phone has literally become a slot machine. It works like a tiny casino. It's got the casino effect built in. You check it and sometimes you see something interesting, a message, a like, a piece of news, a funny video, and sometimes nothing shows up. But that's the uncertainty that keeps people checking again and again and again and again. Your brain learns something quietly. And every glance brings you to something new. So your brain keeps reaching for the phone the way someone pulls a slot machine lever. I don't think human beings are aware of this. You pull the lever, maybe something appears, you pull again. So now why does meditation actually feel impossible nowadays? Like I'm an avid meditator and breathwork practitioner. Like I train my focus every day. Just like people work out their muscles, I train my brain. Now, I don't expect the rest of the world to follow me, to do what I do. I'm not here to say do what I do. That's not what I'm here to say. I am trying to say that this is my personal regimen. This is what I do. This is my system. Meditation, once it enters a conversation, a lot of people say something like this. "Oh, I can't meditate. Oh, I can never sit still. I can't sit down, I can't close my eyes." And then within 30 seconds, their brain starts racing if they actually try. The thoughts fly everywhere. To-do list, old conversations. I have to do this. Random worries, news. Plans for tomorrow. And people assume that they're bad at meditation. We are dealing with time. As a human being, you are dealing with time. There are 3 levels of time: past, present, and future. Most people are either living in the future or living in the past. Well, if you're going to be a leader, or at least lead your life or lead your relationship, present tense is where you need to be. You need to be in the present. That's where all of the power begins. And people assume that they're bad at meditation. That's not really what's happening. It's like telling that dog to chase the tennis ball all day, and you're suddenly telling it to sit perfectly still. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And our ego gets in the way. I have to be doing something right now. I have to be doing something all the time. Like I've seen people say, "Oh no, I have to be doing something." My mind, and they justify it. They justify it. They make excuses. They make reasons for it, but they don't realize what they're actually doing to their life. That's where self-awareness comes in, where you actually have the recognition of what you're doing to yourself, how you're escaping, how you're numbing yourself out, how you're distracting yourself. And just like the dog looks confused, your nervous system is doing something similar. For years, it received one clear message: stay alert, stay busy, keep reacting. So now, when you tell the brain, sit down and be quiet, okay, brain, be quiet, the brain looks at you like you've just changed the rules of the game and doesn't even know how to deal with it. So your nervous system doesn't flip like a switch. The nervous system runs on patterns. You are a pattern. Your thinking is a pattern, your behavior is a pattern, your emotions are a pattern, and your thoughts are a pattern. So when you're teaching your brain this pace, it becomes normal. And when silence appears, the mind starts searching for something to react to. I need to react to something. I got to watch the news. And doom scrolling at 2 o'clock in the morning is probably by far the worst thing human beings can do to their psyche. It can be used positively, by the way, positively. But what happens is it feels like restlessness, not because meditation is impossible. It's all because the brain was trained to run. It's trained to do. But the world is so full of confusion, the mind has to grow quiet. And breathwork has been that ultimate tool for me. Now, that being said, we should take a look over at deep thinking, because deep thinking lives in stillness. It lives in quiet. So imagine a different scene: a quiet room, a notebook is open, and a problem is sitting in front of you. No notifications, no messages, no checking your cell phone. Your mind will wander, then slowly something changes. Ideas start to connect a little bit, patterns start to appear, pieces of information start to lock together like gears in a clock. So a solution forms. And that thinking, that kind of thinking, solves real problems. But it requires something that feels rare. It feels rare today. And that is time and stillness. So deep thought, deep sustained thought without any damn distraction is becoming hard for people. And if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to either be a leader, lead your life, or lead your relationship, then you're going to have to master sustained attention. Now, leadership lives in that space. Leadership is not about reacting the fastest like people think. It's not somebody who just reacts all the time. It's seeing clearly. It's having a sense of discernment and clarity. So if you can imagine a room where there's a team discussing a complicated issue, everyone is talking, all opinions, maybe people are even yelling and screaming at each other. They're all bouncing off the walls with their opinions. The information is flying everywhere. And the leader just sits quietly for a moment and just listens to the crap. Okay? They're watching the patterns. They're waiting for the dust to settle. Then they open their mouth. Suddenly the room becomes clear. Direction appears. Now, it's not about shutting people down, because you have to give people that voice to share. What I've learned by working with Apple Computer for close to 13, 14 years is that collaboration is at its highest strength when leaders listen to their people and collaborate together to find solutions together. Not only do solutions live there, but innovation lives there as well. So the louder that leader speaks, the room just becomes clear and direction starts to appear, right? And at that moment, because someone had their attention steady long enough to see the whole picture, we can start to see direction. Now that leads us over to metacognition. I believe that metacognition is a skill for leaders in 2026. Or again, by the way, you don't have to lead a group. You can lead your life or lead your relationship, or you can follow. And that's the whole idea here of metacognition. Metacognition is extremely powerful. I know it sounds like a buzzword, but I'm going to break it down to you really It's the most powerful skill we were never taught. It simply means this. It is thinking about your thinking. Now, if you're an overthinker, you might be saying, well, isn't that overthinking? And the answer is no. It is your ability to step outside of your mental activity and ask, what is my mind doing right now? Right? Or a question about a decision. You might be making a decision about two cars. Which one should I get? Should I get this one or that one? And you might ask yourself a question about that question. The question could be, what will this cost me? And what direction is this going to take me in if I get involved in this right now? Right? So it's not about second guessing yourself. It's looking down almost at the traffic of life and understanding that everything is moving in a different direction. And metacognition is that moment you realize that I'm not one of the cars here. I'm the person watching the traffic. I'm the person making the decision. You start to become aware of the decision you're making, and that shifts everything. So let me give you some examples of metacognitive questions, right? Because what they do is they slow the mind down and they help redirect the attention. So instead of reacting automatically, you pause, you ask a question that brings awareness back. So, for example, what problem am I trying to solve right now? What problem am I trying to solve in this moment? When you're having an argument with somebody, a metacognitive question is, what are we trying to accomplish with this conversation? Try that. Next time you get in a fight with somebody you love, try that. Now, if they come across with an egotistical response, then you'll know that they're operating on autopilot, meaning they're not really paying attention to their thoughts, their behaviors, their feeling. They're not very self-aware at that moment. Another question is what I'm doing now moving the work forward? So that's what I mean by people have just become so busy, they can't tell the difference between being busy and actually accomplishing. So that's the question to ask that's on a metacognitive level is what I'm doing moving the work forward? Where is my attention now? That's an awareness question, right? Am I reacting or am I thinking am I thinking about this or reacting to this? You know, if I'm buying two cars, am I thinking about the car or am I reacting to it? What matters most in this moment? Because these questions are really simple, but they interrupt the mental autopilot. So to understand how to build your own metacognitive question, especially a metacognitive question that is designed for you to become more self-aware, you could start with a simple pattern. What I'm thinking or feeling about X now, or why am I thinking or feeling that way, and how is it affecting what I'm doing? That is a very metacognitive question. So here's a scenario. Picture this. You're working on an important project. Your phone lights up. You pick it up. 5 minutes later, you're scrolling to something completely unrelated. 10 minutes pass, then 15. Now you imagine something different. Your phone lights up again. You reach for it, but opening it, you ask one question. What was I doing before I picked this up? That allows you to redirect the attention. That's the thing. We are training ourselves for distraction, but we have to get back to retraining ourselves towards the direction. We have to ignore some of those impulses and train ourselves to ignore that impulse and redirect ourselves back to what we were doing. What was I doing before I picked this up? And suddenly the mind reconnects to the original task. You put your phone back down, the attention returns to the work. That one question could save you 25 minutes of scatterbrained thinking. So the default question is that if you remember only one cognitive question, make it this: where is my attention now? Where is my attention now? And that question turns the light on in that dark room. You see what your mind's doing, and once you see it, you can actually redirect it. And if you ask yourself that all day and you train yourself on that all day, you'll start to become more self-aware. And doing more meditation and breath work, you'll become more self-aware on top of that. So focus creates momentum, sustained attention. When attention stays on one task long enough, something powerful happens. The work starts finishing, things get completed, plans become clear, and decisions carry deeper weight. And guess what? Energy begins to move rather than being scattered everywhere. So 2 focus hours can move a project further than an entire day of fragmented, broken effort. That is the power of focus. So the real problem today is that people want to lead and they may not have the focus for it. And again, I'm not here to speak from a higher place. I'm not here to say, oh, I'm better than you because I have attention span. No. I'm here to say that attention span is the new survival mechanism in 2026. That's what I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you that the reality is in. Reality is here. That people with fragmented attention span are going to have a far more difficult time. Now, you can't say all because everyone is different. Everyone is completely different. Our attention span is constantly being fractured and pulled apart. And those who can have sustained focus will have lots of productivity. Productivity can be measured in many different ways. But when it comes to focus in terms of leadership, it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. All of the notifications, the messages, the scrolling, the updates, that's where the attention starts to break apart. Progress fragments when your attention span fragments. People feel busy because the mind is busy. But when they look and see that really nothing got accomplished, they start to feel stuck, angry, frustrated. So the people who learn to protect their attention literally begin standing out. They stay with the problems longer, they listen deeper, they think further, and they make clearer decisions. And that's how leadership actually grows. Because over time, you have to be able to trust yourself and trust your own judgment. So here's the end of the line today. Okay, at the end of the day, just picture two desks. The one desk is covered with open tabs, blinking notifications, half-finished work, scattered paperwork everywhere. And the other desk has a finished document and a clear plan for what's going to happen the next day. Because people are either future thinking or past thinking. But when we're in the moment, being mindful, that's another word that the attention community absolutely hates. They hate that. What does that even mean, mindful? It means be present. Be present. Be in the work. Be in the process of. The difference between those two desks, it's not about intelligence. This is not about me standing on a soapbox and saying I'm better. No. This is not about intelligence. It's attention that stayed in the room long enough to actually finish and complete the work. And sometimes all it takes is bringing your attention back to where it needs to be. And there is one simple question you take from this episode is, where is my attention right now? Where is my attention right now? And another thing I say this to myself when I want to appreciate life. When I'm out in nature and I want to appreciate everything around me, I just say out loud, witness this moment, witness every moment. And I just take a deep breath and I just really absorb nature. And that's another thing, getting back to journaling and nature. Journaling is the ability to reflect without another person. And I mean journaling on paper, only on paper, because when we type with our fingers, the brain can't keep up with the speed of the fingers. There's a science to that. You can look that up. But where is your attention right now? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care. See you on the next episode.